Time to look at your market news now. Asian shares fell and the dollar was firm as investors look ahead to policy meetings from the Federal Reserve, the Bank of Japan and other central banks this week. Brent crude oil pushed towards $95 a barrel, highlighting inflationary pressures just as policymakers at key central banks prepare for their interest rate meetings. Meanwhile, South Africa's largest fishing company, Oceana, reported lower sales and production volumes in its largest segment by revenue because of greater costs and the weaker rand, despite seeing greater canned sales of its Lucky Star brand. The company expects to publish its annual results on November 27th. However, to talk to us a little bit more about the markets, we are joined by Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, thank you so much for your time. I mean, let's talk about current market sentiment and the kind of dynamics you're seeing here, and whether we can actually confidently say that the market dynamics are shifting from extreme bearishness to somewhat of positivity.
To some extent, yes, we're moving towards positivity because remember, we're worried that the high or the rapid interest rate increases will tip the economies into a recession. So people are starting to talk more about soft landing, including even finance ministers in different countries. But now also what's now threatening the valuations when it comes to stocks is the fact that we see bond yields going up. So that itself is making what we call the fixed income investments more attractive compared to stocks. So that is a threat as well when it comes to stock valuations. But generally, markets get to be driven now lately that, you know what, we think we're at a point where interest rates might not have to be going up rapidly as we initially thought. And probably the central bankers are starting to kind of win in this fight against this inflation.
So let's stay with the central banks for a bit here. This week we're expecting the Federal Reserve as well as the South African Reserve Bank. What are you expecting from either side?
You know, so far, I mean, markets have penciled in that comes Wednesday, then the U.S. Central Bank, they don't have to increase interest rates because we say that inflation is starting to be tamed. And for the fact that they indicated almost 2 months back that they're left with 2 more to go. And so far, they've used the one, so they're still left with another one. Probably they might want to keep that for later to try to see that how is data going to be driving that decision, because all these interest rate decisions from now supposed to be data driven. And should that happen, we will expect that our Reserve Bank as well come Thursday, they don't have to increase interest rates. Remember, Q3 inflation expectations have managed to come down from 6.5% to 6.1%. So we'll expect at least our Reserve Bank as well to say, let's give these interest rates a chance to start working to the economy so we don't have to increase any time now. And that will help them. That should a need happen, that they need to give us another one, then they will at least be having another bazooka or ammunition to give us another interest rate should the data tell something else. But so far, data says the guys don't have to increase interest rates come Wednesday and Thursday.
So earlier on the Stock Exchange News Service, we had news coming out of Prosus and Naspers that CEO Bob van Dijk would be stepping down, or rather has stepped down with immediate effect, and Irvin too taking over in the interim. Looking at the share price movements, down 2% for both, just over 2% for both Naspers and Prosus. What do you make of that announcement? And I suppose, what questions do you have about what happens next?
You know, I think markets somehow they were expecting this. Remember, the guy has been struggling to unlock value. Yes, he's done very well when it comes to those 2 companies. But the biggest issue with those 2 stocks they've been trading at almost 50% to their net asset value. And we know that what's in the price is a reflection of the performance of Tencent. So he cannot take credit on that. But yes, the new guy who will be stepping in as an acting, he's been around. I mean, he's been the chief investment officer. The question here is, will they take him permanently? And, it's not easy that you are operating as a chief executive officer and you've got a founder as a chairperson. The guy understands and knows clearly what needs to be done. So I guess the pressure has been there. And so far, markets have been complaining. They'll come with a structure. Now they're redoing that structure. They're doing everything that they can to try to unlock value, and it's not happening. So I think the guy didn't enjoy his rugby yesterday. The guy was forced to step down. You cannot just tell us first thing Monday morning that you're stepping down with immediate effect. And this whole small story that you are available for consultation, how will you know that the guys have to use to? Most probably they won't even consult with you.
Right. That's quite interesting. I want to talk about the price of Brent crude, $94 right now. We're just above 90. This is probably the highest we've been since November last year. How are you assessing those moves, and is it good or bad?
You know, for all producing countries, definitely that's good news. For the likes of Saudi Arabia and Russia, definitely they are managing to achieve what they've been wanting to achieve. Remember, the guys that are cutting almost 1.3 million barrels per day up until the whole of this year. So that's working for them now. Look at the situation where you've got a cut when it comes to supply. And now we can see that the U.S. economy is more resilient. We can see that China now and then they announce stimulus, and probably it will come to a point where it's going to be helping. My point is demand will still be there to some extent, and even OPEC themselves, they expect the demand to continue to be robust. Also, when you look into the international energy agents, they also expect demand to continue to be robust. So hence the prices are going up at the fact that demand is high there, but you don't have supply. But for the likes of us as net importers, and also using that rand, which is continuing to weaken, that's inflationary in its nature, and unfortunately it might relate to our Reserve Bank at some point to say inflation is getting out of concern, I have to do something by increasing interest rates. So then that's bad for us, and generally bad for most economies, because that's inflationary the minute you start seeing oil prices going up.
All right, Makwe, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. That is Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. And as he mentioned, we will be paying attention to central bank meetings, the FOMC on Wednesday, Thursday, the South African Reserve Bank, and the Bank of Japan on Friday. That is it for me. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more news for you, so stay tuned.